There you go.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Conservation, Sustainability and Green Initiatives Committee for January 25th. And I guess the first matter is, Council, can you take attendance?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reinhardt,
Yep.
Efacoro,
Present.
Camisso, Fine,
Here.
Lockhart,
Here.
Miller,
Present.
Plotsky, Simpson,
Present.
and Pearlie.
Here.
7 present, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, thank you. First order of business is to approve the previous meeting minutes. Are there any questions about the minutes? Is there a motion? Matt? And a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Yes, yes, okay, passes unanimous. I don't see any objections. Okay, the first order of business is local law number M for 2021, local law concerning the cutting, replacing, and preservation of forest lands by county authorities. And Jeff, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it's my understanding that this matter needs to be tabled at least one more meeting to align with the new notice for the new public hearing, which is required, I guess, by the fact that the previous public hearing was scheduled for the end of the year. And my understanding is that that is on the agenda for the legislative exchange, the next legislative exchange, so that we'll be in a position to substantively take up both the public hearing and the underlying law itself, I think, at the next meeting.
Okay. Next order is the amending resolution number 45 for 2019 regarding the countywide resiliency plan. And Luke, you want to address that?
Luke, before you start, sorry. And by the way, you're muted. Mr. Reinhardt, I have Mr. Camisso, I guess, piggybacked into this meeting.
Okay. Welcome, Frank.
All righty, thanks. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. So just before I discuss this item, just for the sake of clarity, item 3 and item 5 are linked. The best way to think about it sort of is this: item 3 is going upwards between us and the state. Item 5 is going downwards between us and our contractor for the project, but they're both related to the same project. So this first item, item 3, is just a contract amendment with New York State. We, as we progress through the project to the RFP phase, realized that we would get more value out of the state funding, which is 100% of this contract, if we utilized about $25,000 that we had earmarked for staff reimbursement, and rather use that as an ad alternate proposal that, once we had identified a list of potential resiliency projects, gave us some funds to start to do preliminary engineering design. Again, it's preliminary, but what that does is, for a select number of high priority projects, allows us to have that material already generated, so that when grant opportunities come around from DEC, from FEMA, whatever it may be, frequently they want to see some sort of preliminary conceptual designs. And we would have projects sort of on the shelf, in a sense, ready to go for state and federal funding. So that's the purpose. Functionally, it's just a contract amendment. The way it's represented in the county budget is already correct or accurate. We just have to amend our contract with the state to reflect the updated budget proposal.
So Luke, you're not losing your job or 25% of your pay with this change.
My opinion on this is what I'm getting paid to do anyways. So, no reason. Reimbursement's always nice, but it's part of my job description. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, and I did gather the fact that this is setting us up to be more able to get some state and federal grant monies down the road.
Yeah, and particularly, if there's an environmental bond act, this project's identified by this, as well as, federal infrastructure money in the recent bipartisan bill, all really aligns with the type of work that this project is focused on. So it just made more sense.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion? Can I have a motion to approve this?
Motion.
Was that Frank?
Yeah.
Frank? And then Ferraro, second? Did I see a
Yes.
second? Okay,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passed unanimous. Okay, I guess we'll take these in order, even though you already did discuss item 5. Item 4 is authorizing an agreement with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and amending the 2022 Albany County budget.
All right, thank you. This is me again. So we applied last year for a small sort of planning grant. It's for a greenhouse gas inventory, both for county operations as well as a county-wide greenhouse gas inventory. These are a typical inventory that's done, is supposed to be done every 5 to 10 years so that we have an understanding of our energy usage across different modes, transportation, buildings, et cetera, that can then inform the policy decisions we make to reduce our emissions. It had been the last greenhouse gas inventory for operations had been 2013 and countywide a few years before that. So we're due for an upgrade, and it's a 50% match. So it'll be 15,000 from the county, 15,000 from DEC. But as with many grants, we have to pay for everything up front and then get reimbursed the 50%. So this is for a contract authorization as well as the budget amendment.
So we don't have a contractor selected yet. That would remain to be done later.
Exactly. As soon as we have a contract with DEC, we can then do a solicitation, and based on the dollar value, I think that could happen somewhat quickly and would likely, I think, go to CAB. Although if this went to the ledge, maybe it'll come back to the ledge. We can discuss that, but that would happen as soon as this contract is executed.
Yeah. Now, I do have one other question about this. Are a lot of different counties in the state doing the same thing? They also.
This is a sort of core item that DEC has included over the years as part of its Climate Smart Communities program.
Right.
So it's a recommended sort of best practice, and you also get points towards being a climate smart community. So we got credit for the ones we've done in the past when we became a climate smart community. But again, what was true in 2013 is not 100% accurate today. Hopefully it's better, but the expectation is to maintain our status as the climate smart community, and just to be best informed with our actions going forward, that you do these on a semi-regular basis. So yeah, a lot of counties, cities, towns, villages have completed these or are in the process.
Do you know, Luke, whether is that going to be public information? Could we, for example, once we get our numbers, see how they compare to other counties across the state?
That's a good question. Some of the things are public information through other programs we have. Like we publish through our benchmarking program a lot of our building usage. I think it does need to be published, and there's no reason why we wouldn't want to. So yeah, you can look at, and one way you could look if you were really curious and had the time, is every item that is submitted to DEC to earn climate smart community designation is on their website, sorted by municipality, and is required to be published. So anyone who's done one, you could look back and see and compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm.
There's different, some counties operate transportation and programs here. That's at the regional level. Some have, sewer districts, some might not. So you want to make sure you're finding a comparable county, but there's definitely, it's possible.
Yeah. Well, I have some experience with this from the town of Bethlehem. Years ago, we had a greenhouse gas inventory, and for that suburban community of Bethlehem, the biggest single thing was people in Bethlehem commuting to work. That was the single biggest energy activity for the county. I mean, for the town. But I do think it would be informative and useful to be able to look at what some of the other communities around us where they're at in terms of the inventory. Obviously, Luke, that I think this is a very important issue to address, and I'm going to be seeing how fast we can move to reduce our greenhouse gases once this is done. And I'd like to get started even before this is done, as you know. And one last thing I just wanted to share with all the legislators here. Luke is aware of it. Many of you probably are not. I have been working on a large proposal that's going to NYSERDA to establish a clean energy hub in the Capital District. And one of the targets is going to be disadvantaged communities and underserved populations. And I hope to work with many of you once this is funded. I expect it will be, to basically get out into the communities with grassroots groups and make them aware of all the various programs that they can access, whether it's transportation related, heat pumps, energy efficiency in their buildings, using solar, either rooftop or community solar. And so I'm very excited about this. I put a lot of effort into it, and a lot of community groups across the region are engaged in this. It's going to be all 8 counties of the metropolitan region. It's not just Albany County. But I will say that Luke took the lead on a program just within the county. What's the proper name for that, Luke? The community
Are you
challenge?
talking about the NYSERDA community campaigns or?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've already hit some of our targets, which doesn't mean we shouldn't get more signups for all the programs involved, but it's been very effective. And I want to compliment Luke on that effort because it's a good one. It's not nearly enough, but it's a really good start. So I wanted to get
I
that out.
appreciate it. And the nice one about that one is you get some grants when you meet those thresholds. So it's not a huge amount, but it's more money that can be invested towards sort of innovative sustainability initiatives.
Right. Okay.
Can we get written information on that?
What's that?
Can we get written information on what you just talked about?
The Clean Energy Hub?
Yeah.
Yes, Mert, I am actually going to be talking to the Black Caucus about it. But also it's also targeting underserved communities in the rural areas. And I think that, we have several legislators who have constituents who could be eligible for this activity. And once the Affordable Housing Partnership is the lead contractor, and various groups are going to be subcontractors, including a couple that I'm involved with. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of partners who will not be paid, such as Solarize Albany, the group that I've been involved with for years now. So we're going to be a volunteer group participating in this activity along with various groups in the South End and in Arbor Hill and in other parts of the region. Anyway, once we submit the whole thing, once Affordable Housing Partnership submits the whole thing, then I think we'll be able to start sharing it. They may not want to share it until we get notified that we're winning the award, but in any event, definitely I do want to share it. And I'm very excited because this is a multi-million-dollar investment by NYSERDA in the region. So, and it aligns with the CLCPA, the climate bill that said we need to spend more money in our underserved communities, environmental justice communities. So this is one of those efforts to do that. So anyway, now let me see. We need to vote on this measure, the item 4. Are there any more questions on what Luke shared with us? Is there a motion to?
I do, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman Reinhardt. The language is awful general, and they're going to do a study to present us with a plan. And I'm wondering, can we be a little clearer about practical outcomes that we expect from the money that we're spending on it, especially given that climate, of course, is a global issue. So the question is, what role does the county see it playing in that global issue? And what are the specific outcomes that we most want to acquire?
Which item are you talking about? The greenhouse gas inventory?
Both, because you're all of it's, you're talking about climate change. So I guess what are clear practical outcomes are we looking for, given that we're encountering a global issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's a global issue, but a lot of the action that needs to be done to address it ends up being local. And, what we'll be looking at in the inventory is our fleet is one big component of it. And how do we reduce the emissions of our fleet? It will look at our building footprint and how do we reduce the emissions of our building footprint. It'll look at sort of our operations writ large and, factor things in as Mr. Reinhardt mentioned, looking at commute patterns and is there anything you can do there to is every single person driving in individually in a car? Obviously that's their right and that's very common and that's fine. But if there's ways to reduce that, then you're reducing emissions. So it's really goes in a very detailed level, looking at utility bill level data, gas level data to be a proxy for use. And then, the data is the baseline to make those decisions that you're talking about of, are we converting our fleet to zero emissions vehicles? Are we transitioning to clean heating and cooling technologies? That's the government operations side. On the county-wide side, we don't have, and this is just common practice, we're not going to have the granular level of data that we have for our own operations. So it's a little bit more of educated guesses based on available data about population, about industry, et cetera. And then on that side, it's looking at, first we take care of our, address the issue with our own operations. Then we look externally at how can we implement programs that incentivize emissions reductions in the community, like the climate or the program that Bill and I had mentioned before, the community campaigns that incentivize households and give them reduced rates and other incentives to either go electric vehicle or renewable energy. So that's sort of the answer on the inventory. On the climate resiliency side, the upshot of the plan is looking at what the increased primarily flood, there's a little bit of heat in terms of our climate risks, but extreme weather is the biggest one. It's doing a data analysis to try and project what that's going to look like for 2030, 2040, 2050, and then design specific either policies or projects that can be implemented to, it could be repairing our natural infrastructure that in the past, we didn't know what we do now, that had served as a buffer to prevent flooding, and do you rehabilitate some of that, or do you work with communities along the Hudson River that many people don't necessarily recognize as tidal, and there can be additional climate risks there and below the lower part. And what are the infrastructure project? Is it a culvert project? Extreme weather means you need bigger culverts to deal with additional stormwater. So a slate of projects that we can then go, as mentioned before, to the feds, to the state for the funding that's needed to really harden our infrastructure, and then look at it from a policy perspective as well in terms of, what is our post-disaster recovery, the communication side of it, the economic resiliency side of it. So it's a pretty in-depth analysis. We've had, the consultant is Bergman Associates. They've been doing a great job, and we'll have some real actionable items that come out of that one. And for the inventory, you follow that up with developing the actions that you want it to be based in data. You don't want to be sort of guessing what the best route is to reduce your emissions.
One other comment I'll make, Mark, is that
What is the mechanism? What is the mechanism for county legislators to give input into the process? In other words, how do we actually make recommendations of what should be looked at? For example, the Capitol Center might lend itself to geothermal energy, something like thermal advantage load sharing, where you shift hot and cold energy within the facility. What is the mechanism for us to give recommendations as to what needs to be looked at?
I think there's a few. There are public hearings that are held, or public meetings rather, that are held as part of the climate resiliency. Now, you're legislators, so you get more than just public meetings. We can have offline conversations. If you have specific recommendations, we could set something up with the consultant. That's all on the table.
Okay, let's look at that. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
just-
know, you know,
go ahead.
Mert is aware of some things going on downtown that, and I am as well, that are very large-scale geothermal activities in both Sheridan Hollow and in the Madison neighborhood, which are very exciting. And, you know, that will potentially have major impacts in that, you know, in the greenhouse gases coming out of that part of the city. But I'm not really sure, Merton, whether the specific resiliency planning that Luke is referring to right now is going to address that much, other than potential for flooding in some of those neighborhoods from you know, sea level rise, which goes all the way up to the Troy Dam. So that might be really the focus of the resiliency study. But
Yeah, it's a good, you know, a lot of what we talk about is mitigation. What are we doing to reduce our emissions? And that's part of the equation. The resiliency plan is focused on sort of the other side, a little bit the adaptation side of the coin, where we're getting these storms, we're getting these extreme weather events at a higher clip and a greater frequency and more severity than we did in the past. I mean, we know that. And so what are we doing to better be prepared for them? But there's, you know, plenty going on that can loop in a lot of these different things that we're talking about.
one thing I wanted to respond to Mark Grimm about is I don't know whether or not this is going to be an issue in the Capital District or in Albany County, but I do know that in some parts of the country, we have historical brownfields, toxic waste sites that are very close to sea level or river level, some of which are tidal. So one of the potential big problems could be flooding of these toxic sites by these increasingly intense storms and you know, the rising water levels. That's kind of a time bomb waiting to go off. And you know, in some cases, that's what this kind of a resiliency study is also going to be looking at. Is it's like how vulnerable are we for some of these issues where when these things were put into place long ago, when early settlements were all near the rivers and the waters of water bodies, you know, nobody thought about this. So that in some cases is going to be a big issue. Okay, so that is item 5. Item 4. And I don't think we voted on this yet. So is there a motion to approve the item 4?
I make a motion.
Okay, Matt, and a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it passes unanimous. Now, Luke, item 5 is the resolution number 69, amending resolution 69 for 2021 regarding the resiliency plan. That is
Yeah,
just
so-
a time change, right?
So this is as I mentioned, connected to item 3. So the funding that was amended or shifted in item 3, this is us now awarding that additional funding to the consultants so they can do that work that we discussed.
Oh, okay. All right, I guess I was confusing which one was a time schedule change. Okay, so are there any questions about this? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Motion.
Matt? Second?
Gotta be quick about it.
All right, Bararo, you're on. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it passes unanimous. Any other comments that the committee members would like to make at this point? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I think everyone wants that. Okay.